Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today I've got Spiros Margaris. How do I pronounce your surname? Margaris?
Margaris.
Margaris?
Depends who says it.
Okay. So Spiros is... I was reading up on you before we came to the event, and you describe yourself as having the triple crown, which is your #1 for artificial intelligence, machine learning, and FinTech.
I think it was AI, FinTech, and blockchain.
Okay, right.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, and
but so before we start, where can people find you on social media?
People can find me on Twitter, of course, Spiros Margaris, just one word, or my LinkedIn profile, or my website, and then they can fill out the contact form. So it's
okay. But Twitter and LinkedIn, you're very active on Twitter, which is
Twitter is my main platform for sharing my thoughts, or sharing, more importantly, sharing other people's thoughts, which I find interesting. And which I read, and I think, even if I don't agree on it always, but I think they might be right and I might be wrong, so I share it.
Okay, so we're gonna split this into two. So we're going to talk about two things rather than one subject. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about startups and your involvement in that, and your view on startups in the current environment. And then I'm going to basically switch, and we're going to talk about social media.
Perfect. By the way, I wanted to just say it's a great honor to be on your show.
Oh, thank you very much.
And very much so. I mean, since you're a superstar in your own field, and I just wanted to say it before I forget at the end of the show.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. So in the world of startups, things have changed a lot because of COVID-19 and the coronavirus. Now, things will go up and things will go down. But from an overall general perspective, I mean, what's your view on the startup market? Because it must be hitting some people hard.
It's almost like a perfect storm. I think we've seen a long period of a good stock market, which also affected the startup world, because there was a lot of money out there and people were looking to deploy into startups. And I think now this is a very difficult moment, because if you don't have enough cash to survive for another year, it's probably going to be hard to raise funds this year, unless you're very established. I mean, the big boys, like WeFox, which I'm involved in, I want to say that, we raised 225 million. We're lucky. That means we have plenty of money to survive for more than 1 year, maybe 2-3 years. Even so, and the other ones like Number 26 and Revolut, those are the lucky ones. But that's part of life, be at the right place at the right time. But for startups that don't have enough funding, and the burn rate, that means for people who don't know that, if burn rate is just the money they spend to stay in the business, is too high, it might be a problem. It's not about fairness or not. It's just a bad situation. I mean, everyone suffers. And startups suffer even more.
There's some people that we've been talking to that have had running as a business. They're a 10-year-old business. They're not a big business, but they actually feel that they're back to the beginning again. They're agile enough to actually realize that they need to change, and they're going to go back to the start. And obviously, for an organization where you've invested your time and effort into it for 10 years, that is for some people very heartbreaking.
Yes, there are almost no words for that. I mean, it's just a situation. It just came so quickly, and it drives. It's not only there's no money. I mean, there's money, but there's no money for startups per se, because basically everyone has to protect his own business and has his own little burn rate, so to speak. You, me, everybody. And then the customers fall off as well, and it's some businesses. FinTech can benefit from it, though, if you survive, because people go more digital. We all go. I mean, grandparents go digital. I mean, a grandparent won't open a challenger bank, but there are people who haven't looked at the digital bank online experience per se, and they might go after, might look for way of doing the banking, doing some things from home, and maybe they might consider somebody else than what they used to have, the incumbent. But they all fight for the same customers. We're just talking about FinTech, in the FinTech space. And like in any crisis, I think that people benefit from it. I mean, I notice I can speak to people more easily because I have a little bit more time. People, they don't have, some meetings fall off, not important ones. So people still have some time. So if you have a story to say, to tell, I think that there are people who listen, but it's just going to take a little longer because everything is now just on hold.
Yes. And I think a lot of people are, if they were going to go out and spend money, as you say, what they're trying to do is protect their cash flow.
Yes.
And therefore they're looking at whether they need to spend that money or not. And it becomes more of a difficult decision. So I've lived through a number of recessions where if you're selling, you need to be empathetic. You need to have a very clear business case. And you need to be very close to the client and actually have very good relationships with them, because they're the three things that will enable you to win business.
Absolutely. And think about it, the people who will survive now and prosper a little bit, that's like in the future, maybe in the fall, people will say, oh, you survived, so you must be a good startup. You know, for whatever reason, maybe pure luck, whatever, but it's one of the checks you will make. Did you survive this crisis?
I mean, if you're in the world of digital, so and many startups are, then what our new normal is the fact that we're not going out, we're not going to be meeting people, we're not going to be going into banks. We're going to want to do it digitally, and while not everybody is comfortable with that, it's going to force people to do it.
But it will force people to do it. But there, you need a strong brand. For instance, I just read this morning, TransferWise just passed 7 million customers globally. It's a remittance service for people who don't know. Basically, when people want to send money from one place to another, very cheap compared to what's the traditional ways of sending money. So you can see you need a brand. You have to work very much on your brand. We will speak about this later. But because people will look for digital solutions, but they're not going to go for something they don't know about it. I mean, you must have heard a little bit about it, otherwise it's very hard. I mean, if I see a brand, I'm not going to put money into startups, even as a challenger bank, if I don't know it well, You have to somehow show the community and your audience and your customers that things are tough. Of course, like it's tough for everyone, but also that you can manage the task at hand, because trust comes with situation like this. You survive like this, there's trust.
So how is it that as a startup do you build the brand and the trust?
I think there are many factors. Obviously, the service, your customers are probably one of the best places to build trust and brand. If your customers talk about your services, I mean, there's nothing better than this.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there's also it's the press, the community, the FinTech community. They have to speak about you. You can't build it quickly, but you have to associate yourself with, probably with influencers as well, because influencers have a credibility in each field they want to keep. So they're not going to sell something, they're not going to push something they don't believe in it. And I think you can leverage the credibility of an influencer, not gaining new customers, but getting the attention of journalists, of other investors, of just other people, which is also important when you do fundraising. And fundraising is part of doing business, because your customers can't, most customer base, even bigger startups, they're not big enough to sustain their business. So they need to do fundraise to grow, to run the business. So you have to work on many fronts.
So how?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So picking up.
Correct me always. Maybe sometimes you're too high up, and then you forget that you have to explain things.
I'm with you, Spiros. So if we look at influencers, you're an influencer. Yeah. So what would a brand need to do to work with you?
They have to approach me.
Well, but they need to approach you, yes.
No. But
what is it that a brand does that would excite you, that you would want to work with them?
I think if you think it's a cool brand because like it's cool startup, or that you think, my God, I wish I would be part of that team, from my side, So the other guy also feels like it's not a job, it's something. Hey, this guy wants to associate his brand with the startup brand because he believes that both brands will build something bigger,
Right.
But you have to have the feeling that they appreciate what you bring. Influence is not only the audience you bring. Influence means also that you're also a sounding board. I mean, that's much more important. The sounding board, basically, they will give you a strategy, and you might say, because you're a little independent. If you ask me, if they ask you, of course, I think what I see globally, because most of the time, so startups are very focused, and that's why they're good on their field. But sometimes they forget that things are happening around them, And I think that's the sounding board, because to be an influencer means somehow you have a good sense of where the future might go. Maybe it's not perfect, obviously, because nobody has a 2020 vision of it. I mean, only hindsight. But that's the value. I mean, the audience is it's there, but they should use influencers, the good ones, as a sounding board to what they believe might be a winning strategy.
Okay. So it's not. So I mean, I was approached today, and I was sent a LinkedIn request, and the person said that they loved my content and read and it really influenced them. And then they basically said that they wanted to talk to me and come on a webcast about artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't written about artificial intelligence or posted anything about artificial intelligence for about 18 months, 2 years. So I thought, all this is it's just template. So I basically pushed back and I said, all very interesting, but I want to work with people that know what I do and understand what I do, and it's a two-way dialogue. Now they've not come back to me, so I can't. I mean, they probably don't have a template to respond to that. But that's kind of the difference. For me as an influencer, I don't like being approached by PR companies because it just feels like you're not interested. I don't like being approached by people using templates. If you want me to work with you, and I'm just seeking your advice. If you want me to work with you, write to me personally. Actually, explain what it is that you want and why I would be the right person. But I would expect the person from up high to say, Tim, I've read your stuff, really love what you're doing. And because of this, and this, we think that you would be the right person, rather than being, the template just made me feel like another piece of meat.
Yeah. I mean, same goes the other way. Once you start a relationship and they ask you rightfully, what can you do for me? It's very important that it's not a template, but something like some lines that relate to their business, I believe. And, sometimes I suspect when people bring their marketing people, nothing is marketing. Basically, they're like two chiefs in the room. It's like, I don't know. I mean, that's my experience a little bit. I don't like to work directly with marketing people. Not because that's what we do. It's not marketing as much as it's branding, because it's like I'm my own horse. I know what to do. That's why I'm successful. And what they do is also good, but it's very difficult to I would not want to work with a marketing person per se. It's very hard to say that, unless they let you be yourself, because otherwise it's useless. It's
But,
like
well, for me-
tell you, do this, do that, do that, and at the end of the day, it's like I would tell Ronaldo or somebody how to play soccer.
Yes, for me, it's about the authenticity of it, and I love working with companies and brands, but it's about I have to be me, and I think what happens is that people approach it from a paid media perspective is that they expect an advert, and they expect me to come on, go look at this mug, you need to buy one of these, and influencer marketing isn't about
Exactly.
that. It's not an advert. It's not about me going, geez, guys. Sorry.
Yes. No, that's not the business we are. It's not. It's really preserving credibility. And that's the most valuable good we have. So if they can convey that, it's okay. I mean, there's some good brands out there. You know, and I have to correctly say, I'm not against marketing, but I'm not there to, as you said, to sell a certain product, unless I'm part of it, and then it's okay. It's like if you work for Coke and say Coke is the best thing in the world, then it's very credible because you work there. I mean, it's whatever. It's
So talking about social, you've put an awful lot of effort into social media. I mean, you said to me when we did the prep call for this that you're on it 7 days a week.
Yes, I am.
And so what is it? So if I was starting from scratch, what is it that what I would need to do to basically become the number one person in my field?
Be at the right place at the right time. I think that, honestly, and then being good with the community. I think it's very important to support other people in your field, whatever it is, fashion, fintech.
So when you mean good with the community, what do you mean?
That means like I look up, besides of the tweets I do, I look up at other people's tweets, retweet that stuff. I read it and I retweet it, and they get more traffic, but they support me. It's my way of also saying thank you. And besides, everyone has great content. Most people have great content. So that's how you support the others. Something that comes out a lot lately. I like it's a good place to address here. Some people say only people are influencers who write stuff.
Okay.
I write stuff, maybe 4 or 5 articles a year, whatever. I don't think influencers are the people who write stuff. They can be. Influencers are the audience decides who's an influencer. It's not it's either your content or other people's content. But I think people tend to, who are too based as a journalist, to believe only because they've written it, they should be influenced.
Oh yes, okay.
They can be, but it's not the criteria, because sharing other people's thoughts is as important as sharing your own. I mean, it worked for me that way. But I hear some voices that say only people should be influencers who write. I mean, then it's just a journalist. It's not an influencer. It can be an influencer, but doesn't have to be one.
But the way that you approach,
but I had to express it because I think the audience decides. It's like I write a song. So what does it mean I wrote a song? If Barry White or somebody else didn't sing my song, it's meaningless. It's like it's not. People should, people put too much effort on saying I have worked so hard on this, therefore I deserve recognition.
Right.
You have to earn recognition. Recognition you earn by working hard, by giving back to the community. You see, I'm very passionate about it.
You are, I know, but it's right in what you're saying, which is that I think, first and foremost, if you approach it from the point of view of making money, it won't work. I mean, what you do is first and foremost about content is it needs to be educational, and it needs to be interesting for people. So if people come to your Twitter stream, it's, you know, you'll go, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm not an expert on that, but I bet it is interesting. That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's interesting. That's, rather than that's, you know, that's interesting. That's crap. That's crap. That's crap. That's crap. That's interesting. And I think it's also about what I found with Twitter. It's about building the community. And I've actually met so many people. You're one of those where I've had built relationships with them. You know, Sally Eves is a great example. I have a relationship with her. I'm connected to her, but I've never met her. But I have a feeling. But I have a feeling. I have a feeling for what she's like, and that's one of these things. Actually, a lot of it is about the community. Is about building friendship, though. Yes. Friendship kind of feels like a soft type of phrase for it. Do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's about building trust, building friendship, building, you know. But that's a two-way street, you know. It's a two-way street. But there's also competition out there. You know, it's. I mean, my business is not about social media. My business is about my investments I have and involvements of the startups. That's where, you know. And I come from the hedge fund business, so thank God I was a little independent before I started this. But social media is the people, the experts you meet. You know, you can talk to some people. If I have a question, I can just call Sally. I can call you. I can call. You know, there are people you can call, and they're there. It's magic. You know. And things you get, you know, like Gemini or IBM or SAP, they send you, you know, you get a cutting edge on time stuff from MIT, etc. It's like a fantastic environment. I mean, it's like a nirvana, you know. It's like a network.
Yeah. I mean, I'm amazed, and I'm very lucky in terms of, you know, there's a number of brands that reach out to me that I can get involved in stuff. I mean, what they want me to do is share their stuff. But it's usually it's the insight that they offer, yes. Because, you know, you've got, you know, you mentioned a whole bunch of companies there which have got big brains thinking about some of the big hairy questions that are going on in this world, and you're able to basically have access to that, and that's one of the things that as an influencer that's good. But you must work at what you're doing with.
I get up in the morning and I work before I do breakfast for my wife. I ask her quick what she wants, and then I do it, and I do work. We eat quick breakfast, and it starts. And then in the evening, you know, just if I have a free time, I look for new stuff to read and share it. And if I'm not involved with the startups, I mean, my day is filled. And the only time on the weekends where it's only social media, less, and no work usually, but all the rest is, you know, sometimes you have a Zoom call or a video call with that startup or with that one, or they want this, you know. It doesn't stop, but I'm not complaining.
Is that because you feel that you have a curiosity, or what probably people would call a growth mindset? You feel that every day you need to.
Yeah, I used to do that already 30 years ago. Not obviously not on social media, but when I was in my business, the hedge fund business, I read everything I got my hands on. From the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, the New York Post, NZZ, whatever I got my hands on. And I love it. I'm just, and social media was just perfect. It's just like all the stuff I read, now I can just share it, you know. But I always had this. I'm very curious, and I love it. It's somehow at the end of the day, when you read so much and you hear so many different opinions, you get a very good feeling with things, you know, because not because one is very smart, but somehow your brain, all this information you get, it's like it makes like a cake, you know, and it gives a good feeling. And a trick I have, I never like with a startup too, I never do deep dive, because all of a sudden, you know, people propose me a startup to invest or finding investors, whatever. I don't do deep dive at the beginning, because if I do deep dive, then I start to like the company, but I shouldn't like the company without deep dive, because the customers won't deep dive. Nobody makes the effort to deep dive. Once you want to invest, you will do due diligence and all the deep diving. Some people are very good at that. But for me, it's just, I don't want to put too much effort in something where then I say, oh my God, subconsciously, I put so much effort in this, I must like it. You know, I rather want to let go of things because they're not worth holding on to. Yeah. And the more time you commit to something, the harder it is to let go. And letting go is also important. You know, I mean, I say often no, and you know, that's how it is. It can't be everywhere. Does it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, Tim.
And I mean, so where do you see the future of social media? Do you know? Is there a way? Do you think is there going to be a future? Or
of course, it's not going to go away. Why should it go away? Actually, it's going to get worse. Not worse in a bad way, but it's just a beginning. I think maybe things will change in terms of I don't know who will be the leader. I mean, things always change. I mean, people are written off Twitter, but all of a sudden Twitter becomes the most credible source. You know, besides of Trump or whatever. You know, we're not talking politics, but some people like him or don't like him. I don't care. But social media, you know, we will be more and more digital. So therefore, social media will be an important part of communicating with people, of sharing ideas, and also for business. Lately, I spoke to investment bank boutique. So when I spoke to him as an influencer, I could tell they didn't take it as seriously.
Yeah,
it's all right. I said, you know. Then I said to him, you know, I guess you associate influencer with your daughters, if you had all kids.
Yeah.
But you know, you better take it seriously, because it's unbelievable serious. You know, it's like you know, the audience you get, it's unbelievable. Global. I mean, 30% of my audience is US, 8% is India. I'm everywhere. And I have a lot of journalists reading my stuff. You can't push stories to journalists. You know, it's like, you know, because you have to respect their integrity. But if they follow you, that means whatever you share, some of it they think it's valuable. So that rubs off on them. So therefore they might say, maybe let's give Spiros a quote or whatever. You know, I was just quoted in the Financial Times in Holland, Netherlands. That's how it works, you know. And investors who will look at certain stories, look at the companies you're involved in, you know, it's a soft way of selling, you know. It's like we always sell. Everyone sells. We get dressed, we make our hair. I mean, we cut it, but we won't cut it for a while. But it's a way, you know, if you approach somebody to get to know somebody, man, to do business, there's always selling, but it's a way of respectful selling, you know?
Yeah.
And social media, people don't take social media seriously. I mean, they should not be in charge of any company. Oh, that's a period. But, you know, obviously a lot of people are in charge because they're too old. But age doesn't have to be, somebody can be 65, 70 and very much into social media.
Yes.
But if you don't believe in it, then hey, forget it. Throw this phone away. I mean, it's just like throw it away, because, you know, it's like, I mean, if you think billboards will do the job, try again.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a movie, if I'm in LA, I see a billboard there, maybe I go see it. But that's, you know, it's social media, it's like live advertisement with credibility.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
With credibility. You say, I believe in this, and I stick my reputation to it, you know, and I fuck up, I have to take the hit. And a billboard doesn't do that. No? Or a banner. And that's the credibility. There was a great study by Onalytica last year about the impact of influencers in AI. And they noticed that the influencers, I was fortunate enough to be one of them, had a bigger impact on AI than big media companies like New York Times or Wired or TechCrunch.
Right.
Because they're much more focused on a topic. Because to be respectful, a Wired or TechCrunch, they have so many topics they have to cover. So they can't do justice to one topic alone.
Of course.
Where influencers, usually they have the 2-3 topics, which are usually also related, Like, for instance, there's no surprise that the top influence in AI, because not the smartest AI guy by far, but FinTech, InsurTech, big data. It's not possible without AI. So anyone who is involved in FinTech and payment, you have to be involved with big data, you have to be involved with AI, with chatbots. For instance, now when people have to save money, a lot of people will fire a lot of employees in their startups. But chatbots, I'm not saying they're perfect yet, they will cut some costs. Startups are looking to cut costs to survive. Circle the wagons. I'm all over the place, but you can tell, I forget, that's the nice thing about what we're doing now. I trust you, and you forget you get recorded, but it's okay, Even if people disagree with what I say.
Hey, if people have got through 30 minutes of listening to us or anyway and invested that amount of time, then they're welcome to it's bonus material, isn't it?
Yes, and I think that they don't have to like everything, and it's okay when they say, Spiros, idiot. Hopefully not always, but when I give some statements. But at least I believe in it, and I that's the important thing. Believing it and take the hit if you have to take the hit. Don't cover your ass always. It's I don't think it's a good thing. It's a corporate thing. It's not something we should do too much.
Yeah. Spiros, it's been great talking to you. We're 30 minutes in, so I'm going to have to bring it to a close. The time goes so quickly. Remind people again where they can get hold of you.
Spiros Margaris on Twitter, or you put Spiros Margaris separate and Google me. There's enough on Google search, and I'm appreciative of everyone who follows me and any comments. And thank you very much for having me, because not only you gave me a voice, you also gave the FinTech, InsurTech, AI voice, because that's what it is, what we did now. It's like people hear maybe and say, maybe we should look at this industry and social media. And again, thank you very much, Tim.
Hey, you're welcome. It's great talking to you. I learned something every time I talk to you. So, it's a pleasure, not a chore.
Thanks.
Thanks, Spiros. Have a good day. Thank you.